everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Karen, the Warped Spinster. Today I am going back to my scrap stash that I used in the last video when we made this block Cabin Interrupted, and I'm going to continue in much the same vein today, except that I'm not going to be using straight lines. I'll have wonky angles and not straight lines on my strips, and see how that goes. It will probably be a shorter video, maybe a smaller block, and it also, you know, the general decision process that I went through on the other block, and this one is just going to be more about decisions about angles that I might use. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned and we'll get into that block. On this block, my first two pieces were these two. It was actually a longer strip that I cut back and then added this piece to the top of it. So that's the general sort of thing I'm going to start out with. It's similar to starting a log cabin. This is why I called it Log Cabin Interrupted or Cabin Interrupted. So I'm going to do the same thing. Again, I'm going to be using white because of this sampler quilt I'm making out of all these things that I try, and because white is more of a modern look than the cream. If you are using strips that are warmer tones, a lot of more traditional fabrics will probably want a cream color with it. So I think I'll start with maybe these two strips together, and I'm not going to sew it in a straight line. I'm going to be starting to work with some bias, but that's all right. We can manage that. So I think I'm going to sew this white at an angle, so I'll follow along this edge to do it, and that will give me a wonky strip there. Let me do that, and I will be back and we'll proceed from there. I've stitched that at an angle and trimmed the seam, and now I have a little bit that I might be able to use in crumb quilting. It's pretty small, but we'll see. Now I want to add another piece on. I can keep going this way if I want a more rectangular landscape style block, or I can start building up a little bit going up. And I think I will do that. And let me just take a strip of this blue, and again, why waste that length of blue? I'm going to do an angle. And of course I have all kinds of choices. I could do straight, so I could mix angles and straight lines, or perfectly vertical. They're straight, but you know what I mean. So I can do it straight, or I could do it at this angle, I could do it at this angle, all kinds of choices. I think I'm going to do it maybe something like that. Obviously, this is not a science at this point. We're back with another piece for crumb quilting. And now I have the decision about if I want to go this way, this way, continue that way, or do something down here. And I think I want to go another piece up here, actually. Do I want it to be white? This block has quite a lot of white in it, and I actually like that, so that the pops of color are almost more pronounced. So I think I will do another strip up here and do just a slight angle on it, just a little bit there. I don't know why circus just popped into my head when I looked at this. Maybe this is the red and white on a tent, I don't know, but this is going to be like the big top in a hurricane or something, or tornado. I live in the Midwest, so it would be a tornado here. Now I am going to see about how much I need, so I'm not wasting bits here. Put a piece on this side, and I could continue at this angle. I could do it I could straighten out this edge. Well, it's already kind of straight, actually, I guess. Or I could change the angle. I think I'm going to change the angle so that it's radiating out from there. At some point, this is actually pretty straight. At some point, I think I'm going to want to introduce a vertical, that's what I mean, not straight, vertical, a vertical piece just to keep it from being too wonky. Whoever thought that would come out of my mouth. We'll see, but I think I want some verticals and maybe some horizontals just to keep it grounded, I guess, is what I'm saying. I am choosing to do all straight lines here, but you could certainly introduce some gentle curves. In fact, it looks like the bias here injected a gentle curve here. I'm okay with that, but I'm not going to plan on it where I purposely put in a curve in this block. Anyway, that's it's an option for another day, and we can talk about curves. Now, of course, I have my usual choices, either side, bottom, or top. And I'm thinking I might do another piece on top here, and it will be a color of some sort. How about some green? And I think, let me see, I want it to be like that. Continue that for a little while. Or do that. I think I'll do this angle. I'm not trimming off this section yet because I don't know yet what I'll do on this side. So if I were to trim this here and then wanted to do a piece that goes diagonally like this, I've lost real estate here. Whereas if I leave that on, I can angle that up a little more. So I'm not ready to trim that just yet. This I'll probably leave on. If it was very long, I would trim it off. And the same is true for this, although that would have to be a much steeper angle in order for that to continue to be useful. But it's not a big deal, I'll leave it. Every time I'm trimming, I'm saving usable pieces for my crumb bucks. And I'm just going to be continuing to make decisions about what I want to add, where and when. Now, if you recall, on this block, I did a partial seam here because I started to sew this together and decided I didn't want this to be all one piece. I wanted to have something going into here. So I stopped the seam here when I was stitching it to this, left it open until I inserted this piece. Now, as you can see from here, if I had sewed these together to begin with, I wouldn't have had to do the partial seam, but because of the way I was constructing it, the partial seam was useful, and I used it. I could do a similar thing here where I start to create actually another piece over here that I'll add on. So that's an option as well. I still have now I have 5 options for either side, top, bottom, or start creating a new piece here. I'm pretty sure that I want to add a white onto that, although I might want to do just a very narrow little bit over here. Let's try that, just a very narrow strip. Very thin strip. I'll trim it down as well. And let's do just a slight angle there. You'll notice I'm generally not doing anything too acute when I'm doing the angles. They're pretty subtle angles here. As I was pondering earlier, I ordinarily would have probably introduced another white strip over here, but I want this little narrow accent. And when I put the white strip on now, I'm going to maintain the same angle as on that purple strip, just because I want that to be an even width, I think. I'm terrible, aren't I? Maybe I don't want a perfectly even width. I don't think I do. I'm going to go with that. Full disclosure, I had sewed it and then decided it wasn't a narrow enough strip, so I went back and widened the seam again. Now, because I have so little room down here, if I try to fold this toward the darker side, I'm going to end up overlapping that, so it's not going to work well unless I press that seam. So I got two choices. I could now press this orange colored seam this direction, and then that can go toward the dark, or I could leave this as is, which is facing that way, and press this toward the white, in which case I would want to trim this back a little, because if I don't, then that purple is going to shadow through here, and I'll be unhappy with that when I go to quilting. I think in this case I'm just going to change the direction I've pressed this seam so that I don't have anything going into the white. And by the way, best practice when you're repressing a seam a different direction, it's best to press the seam flat first and then repress it, so you aren't fighting the old pressing line or crease. So, pretty happy with that so far. I'm thinking, probably overthinking, to be honest with you. Do I want to add another piece over here, or do I just want to make this I'm aiming for a block that's wider than taller, I guess. And I'm thinking that I want it to just be short and wide. It might not go up against this block at all, but just in comparison to, say, a block that I have. By the way, thank you all for your comments about whether or not you wanted the white strip on. There was a mix. More wanted the white than not, but I decided in this case I wanted to use the white strip. Nothing wrong with liking it without the white strip, but one of the common comments was, I just like it with or without, whatever. And some people said it was because it was balanced, set off the purple, and others said, I don't know why, I just do. And all of those are valid reasons. Now, this piece though, I almost think I do need something over here that's a separate piece just for a little more interest. It could be another piece over here, but I've already got this reasonably vertical. Let me find a couple other strips here that we might use. Might start out with something like this. How bad would it be to put green with that? I kind of like it. Then I've got some yellow. Here's a thought actually that just came to me. Someone commented that I'm sorry, I don't remember names well at all in real life either. I used to, but I don't anymore. She commented that she especially liked this narrow yellow strip, and I'm just thought maybe that could be something that ties all of the blocks together, is to have that narrow yellow strip in there. Just happen to have a narrow yellow strip over here. Don't know where I'll use it yet, but I'll put it up there so I don't forget that's what I'm looking at. For a little bit of interest, instead of doing a white and a color strip next to each other, I'm going to do two colors next to each other and build out from that. Question becomes, how long is it going to be? But we'll get to that later. And now I'm pondering, would I want this up here, or would it end up down here? And what angle. Getting ahead of myself again a little bit, but it may help me to decide what fabrics I'm going to use and which is going to, which way is it going to go? Is it going to be this way or this way? In my mind now, it has placed itself here, and my brain probably won't be able to change that. So I think I want it up toward the top, and maybe even make it almost this long so that I have a balance going on there. And of course I would need to build out down here and some more over there. I might do another white strip here and then introduce maybe a short white strip and then a wider colored strip. Okay, so I think I have to review what I think I just said. We gotta do a YouTube live sometime where you can at least shout out to me in the chat. That's not what you said. Yes, and this may be a narrow one, not sure yet, but I definitely want to introduce some white again. To my mind and I need to start introducing some horizontal-ish pieces here. This is getting to be very which is not really what I'm looking for, so I'm going to add probably a narrowish white strip here and then a wider strip of color. I've come back to, I've got those two pieces sewed on the bottom here, and I kept these parallel just for a little bit of rest for the eye. And now I'm trying to decide if I want to keep that straight here. This is pretty straight already, so I'm wondering if I want to angle it this way, in which case it all kind of leans this way, or I could do this and have it kind of meet there. I feel like that's what I should want, but I think I like that better, which surprises me, honestly. But that's what my eye wants, so that's what it's going to get. Then I was thinking about what I'll do up here. I'll have another probably strip of color here, maybe a little white, and then say this purple strip up here. Except that then this makes a very evident T with the purple color, and I'm not liking that. I suppose I could do this and then just have that run up that direction and not have something top off the whole bit at the top. I think that might be what I do. We're gonna give that a go. If we like it, I've got a seam ripper. If we don't like it, I've got a seam ripper. It occurs to me that just took it for granted I was doing that straight that way, but what if I want to angle it this way? That means there's less chance that's going to be read as a T. I like it, so no seam ripper required at the moment anyway. And that's a whole lot of horizontal going on there, so I want to introduce a vertical again, which will be this piece. And I'm not sure I want anything else there. Do I want a white strip? Let's grab a little piece here. Break that up a little bit. Not sure. I am not sure. No, I think that's somehow that just separates it too much from this piece, like it isn't the same piece. You, of course, may well like that piece up there. Well, that's why I do the process videos, so you can see the kinds of questions I ask and the decisions I make, and your decisions may be completely different from mine. That's the fun of the creative mind. So I'm thinking that that will happen. And maybe there will be a piece all the way across here. And then I can build out some more over here and a bit more over here. And then I think I will call it done. I don't want this to be a huge block. I may end up adding more pieces out here as we go, but I think I still don't have my little narrow yellow piece in there yet. Do I want another white piece before I add this in? Yes, I think I do. So I will add a white piece in and then the orange strip, and we'll sew those together. Turns out I'm liking that a lot. I think I want this to angle that way, as I said, and I've got some fabric here. Wish I'd left more there so that I can, now it would be better to angle this because I will lose too much of this, more than I want to, if I cut the angle here. So I'm going to cut it from the white instead, and then I shall be back. So far, so good. I'm liking that. And now I have to start thinking about moving out this direction. And I do want to do a vertical piece here. And I'm wondering if I want to do just another partial thing here. But in that case, I think I would put it down here so I'm not creating another horizontal here. So I've got vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. So, not sure about that. Do I want to tie all this together first? Or maybe I want just a horizontal strip sort of in the middle, or a horizontal section in the middle, and vertical on the top and bottom. So many decisions to make. Fun, yay, yay, yay. Nope, that's too much purple there. I still don't have my narrow yellow stripe in there, do I? Don't think I'm ready for it yet. Yeah, see, too much vertical there. I'm not ready for, that's almost an ending piece. Not sure I would even do that for an ending piece. Not the yellow, I just mean the whole vertical length. Okay. Maybe introduce another orange over here. We're getting pretty orangey. If I do a vertical, all right, let me do a vertical set here first. So I'll do a bit of this green and some white, of course. This is planned improv, if there is such a thing. Maybe the wrong side of that fabric here. Well, we'll do that, see what happens. I decided I wanted to add a white strip in between those two because one of the reasons I like this block is there's so much negative space or white in there. And as I was laying this out horizontally, I began to think about, if I do these verticals, they're going to be pretty short verticals down here. And do I want that? I think they'd be fine up here. In fact, I like them up there, but I'm not sure I'm going to like it down here. What if I put a really wide white one down there? There's lots of negative space there. I think I kind of like that. And then there might be a strip that finishes it off down here. Oh, look, here's a piece from the last block. I just want this horizontal to not be the same as this so that I don't have just this breaking that up. I want something separate. Now I'm sort of seeing these as fault lines, geological fault lines. Yikes. I think I might do that. I like the vertical up here, but the vertical down here would just be so short. I think it would look very chopped. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start piecing these, and this section up here, this may be where the narrow yellow strip goes. And then I'll be back. This is turning into a longer video than you probably want it to be. So let me work on that piecing. You can kind of see where I'm going, and then I'll come back and we'll ponder some more. Here's where I'm at. I pieced these together, cut the angle. I don't know why I decided I was ready to cut that angle. I wasn't really. And at first, I pieced something like this with some white over here, and that was just too much repetition from here. So I discarded that idea. Wanted to be sure I got my narrow yellow strip in there. And then this is left over from this block the other day. That's that piece there. Added that in, put in some orange, and I think I'm going to be ready to be finished with that. I'm going to recut this angle. I want this to come in at an angle. I don't necessarily want to cut off all that blue. So recut that angle, add that on, and then call that the end. This will go like that. It's a better view of it. Quite a bit of green over here. I think I'm all right with that. And then maybe put a purple strip over here. Isn't going to be square, but I don't want it to be square. What if I then added, this may be too much and this is too wide for this, but what if I added a strip of white first here? Or maybe I only want another strip of white there. Pardon my elbow. And then that. These two I can decide later, of course, and that may be that I add them on when I'm ready to connect them to other blocks, depending on what color is here. If there's a white strip here on another block, say here, for example, wouldn't put all those purples together necessarily, but then I might want a color strip there rather than a white. But we can decide that later. I think I will add this white strip on here. Then I'm going to recut this angle to match the angle that I want to do here. I am not happy with all of this white down here. There's just not enough piecing here somehow. Up here, I made this seam, this yellow strip, a little bit narrower. I may want it a little bit narrower still. But these widths were all getting to be too much the same. Now they're going to be cut off up here, so that extra length is adding in some visual chaos. but I'm just not happy with this down here. And if I just add another strip in, then I don't like that. So I have a plan. I have sewed together a white and a purple strip, and I'm going to make a wonky checkerboard. So I'm going to start cutting the pieces at funny angles and creating a weird checkerboard that I'm going to, I think, piece down here. Let's see how this goes. If you do not like wonky, this will probably cause you to tear out your hair. I'm sorry. But I love this. I love the curve on here that's created by doing the sort of triangular cuts here. But the curve is not really in keeping with the rest of this block. But I really, really like it. I have more strips, so let me try. Sorry, that ruler coming down was probably quite loud. Let me try straightening this out. Get a lot of purple in there. And I'm going to lose quite a lot here in doing this, but let's see the difference between the curved and the straight, and we'll talk about the curved. Whoops, gotta save that. I'll have to dig that out again. Save that for crumb. Oh, that adds a lot of something here. Is that too much something there? Just pull it out. Threads are everywhere. Stand up. You know what? It's just wonky as all get out, and I think I like it better than anything else I've done here. What would happen if we did like a plain purple strip in between? Sorry. How's that? That kind of ties it in better, doesn't it? Little narrow purple strip. All right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm pretty sure I like this purple strip over here. All this piecing down here balances out this lack thereof at the top. So I'm going to sew that and then come back and we'll see how it looks. I opted to go fairly straight parallel here rather than doing an angle because, first of all, I have a limited width here, but also there are so many angles going on down here that I thought it would be too chaotic, believe it or not, to do that. I also have chosen not to do another band of purple down here because this sort of transitions into the purple and the wonky angles. If I put something here, then it contains that wonkiness or the chaos, and I like having that ending the block. Now, the next block that comes up will probably contain it, but I'll make sure it isn't purple so that it doesn't just lock it in there. So I think I'm ready to sew this piece, trim it up, and then I think I'm going to add the purple over here. Back for just a minute here. When I am squaring this up, I want to give this priority. I want to save as much of that as I can, so I'm going to make that straight edge the straight edge for the block, rather than, say, making this the straight edge and I end up cutting off that much of it. I don't have that much width of that anyway, so that is going to be my sort of benchmark line, and then I will square it up. This might end up being more square than I thought it was going to be, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to square that up and this side, and then I will add the purple strip on. And this is my finished block, at least for now. Who knows what I might add at some point. It almost looks like 3 different blocks. If I were doing it again, I think I would break this up more. Maybe put a strip through there. But I'm okay with this. I'm gonna have to get a t-shirt or a mug or something that says, I'm okay with that. But I like it. I really like having added this bit at the bottom. So I have a block that I like. I have some bits for my crumb tin and an idea for another video. And hopefully you have gotten some ideas for yourself on how you might use strips, the questions you might ask yourself, and the decisions you would make, which are very likely different than mine. But I hope it gives you some inspiration, maybe a little bit of fun for the day. I will see you again on Sunday, which will be clue 4, I think, won't it? Yes, of the mystery quilt. And we'll actually be making blocks in that. So I hope to see you there. And then next Wednesday, I may do some more with the wonky checkerboard. In the meantime, be happy, be well, be quilting. Peace out.